heard this story this week. This young man went to a Wednesday night prayer meeting. The topic that night was talking about, does God talk to you still today? After prayer meeting, he went with his friends to eat at a restaurant. As they ate, they talked about the subject, does God talk to us today? Does he talk to anyone out loud or other ways these days? After they finished, the young man got back into his car and sat there. He prayed and asked God, will you talk to me today? Will you help me not to just listen but also to obey when I hear your voice? He started the car and started to drive. While he was driving down the main street, he was impressed to stop and get a gallon of milk. He looked up and said, God, is that you? Nothing. Just silence. He continued on toward home. Again, he was impressed too by some milk. Is this how God talks to people, he thought? Then he remembered about the story of Samuel and how he didn't recognize the voice of God at first. After Samuel went to Eli several times, Eli finally told Samuel to tell the voice, here I am, your servant is here to listen. The young man said, okay, God, in case this is you, I will buy the milk. It didn't seem like too hard a test of obedience. He could always use the milk. He stopped and purchased a gallon of milk. As he continued to drive, he felt the urge to turn right, down Main Street. This is crazy, he thought, and drove past the intersection. Again, he was impressed to turn and go down Main Street. At the next intersection, he turned back and headed down Main Street. Half jokingly, he said out loud, okay God, I will. He drove a mile when suddenly, he felt like he should stop. He pulled over to the curb and looked around. He was in a semi-commercial area of town. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst of the neighborhoods either. The businesses were closed and most of the houses looked dark. The people seemed like they were already in bed. Again, he was impressed to go and give the milk to the people in the house. Directly across the street, the young man reasoned that the people were either gone or asleep. He started to get out with the milk and then sat back in the car. Lord, this is insane. Those people are asleep, and if I wake them up, they are going to be mad and I will look stupid. Again, he was impressed to go to the house and give the milk to the people who live there. Finally, he opened the door. Okay God, if this is you, I will go to the door and I will give them the milk. If you want me to look like a crazy person, I will, okay. But I want to be obedient to you also. I guess that will count for something. But if they don't answer right away, I am out of here. He walked across the street and rang the bell. He could hear some noise inside. A man's voice yelled out, who is it? What do you want? Then the door opened before the young man could get away. The man was standing there in his jeans and t-shirt. He looked like he just got out of bed. He had a strange look on his face and he didn't seem too happy to have some stranger on his doorstep. The young man pressed out the gallon of milk. Here, I was impressed too by this for you. The man in the door took the milk and ran down the hall. Then from down the hall came a woman carrying the milk toward the kitchen. The man was following her, holding a baby. The baby was crying and the man had tears in his eyes. The man began speaking and half crying. We were just praying. We had some big bills this month and we ran out of money. We didn't have any milk for our baby. I was just praying and asking God to show me how to get some milk. His wife in the kitchen yelled out, I asked him to send an angel to bring it. Are you an angel? The young man was impressed to give some money as well. He reached into his wallet and pulled out all the money he had on him and put in the man's hand. He turned and walked back toward his car, and with tears streaming down his face, he knew that God still answers prayers and that God still speaks to people. Are you willing to listen to God today? He may not speak to you out loud, but God does impress people to do things for Him. The question is, are you and I willing to obey Him? He has a plan for you in this life. Surrender to God daily and ask God to live through you.